Hello, and welcome to a video in which I will configure Pro Tools, its internal Dolby Atmos renderer, the Audiomovers binaural renderer, and the Mac OS system settings so you can monitor Atmos mixes via headphones or Apple's AirPods. This video is specifically targeted for students in my immersive audio course at Husson University, but other viewers might find it useful as well. Let's dive in. So I'm starting with a relatively simple session. I've created a click track that's under Track, Create Click Track, and I've sent it to the Atmos bed, and I've tested sound, and I can pan this click track around my head here. I'm listening on a 7.1.4 speaker system, and you, of course, need to have this working as well. Please watch earlier videos of mine if you want to know how to set up Atmos. To get headphone monitoring going, let's first go to the I/O. That is under Setup I/O, and go to the Dolby Atmos tab, and we're going to start here with the trim settings here, trim and down mix, and open those up. And by default, when Atmos folds and folds down your mixes, height speakers and rear speakers are attenuated, and you don't necessarily want that in an Atmos music mix because you want all speakers to be equal. So turn off auto here on 2.0 direct, and that will actually reset them both, surround and height, to 0 dB, so no trims. The 7.1 also needs to be configured. Turn that on, turn auto off there, and set the trims to be 0 dB. So now the 7.1 mix and the 2.0 mix will both have no trimming occurring. The 5.1 and the 2.0, we'll leave those alone and as they're currently set up. All right, so closing that, next thing to do is create some re-renderers. There's already two re-renderers made. One should be 5.1, that is for your loudness monitoring. Headphone re-render, make sure it's set to binaural, and that will create your binaural Dolby binaural mix. And we want to make two more, so go into custom re-renders, and we're going to create two re-renders. First one is going to be a 7.1.4, then hit the plus button. Make it live so it can work in real time, and set its format to 7.1.4. And it's going to include full mix. The second re-render is going to be 2.0. This is going to be your stereo fold down, just a stereo without subwoofer headphone monitoring. Hit plus, and oh, there it goes. And I didn't mean to make two there, so I'm going to delete one. And set the stereo one, the 2.0, to live as well, and set it to 2.0 direct, and leave it in full mix. So we've got these two re-renders created. When I hit OK, we actually have four now. We have 5.1 binaural, the 2.0, and the 7.1.4. Now we got to set up access to the binaural renderer by Audiomovers. And on this particular computer, we're feeding a HDX card and an Avid Matrix interface. And so we're using the Avid HDX as its driver, but we're going to use aux.io to enable this additional driver that's going to feed the Audiomovers binaural render. So we go to aux.io and it gives a warning, blah, blah, blah. You can hit OK on that. And you want to turn on the binaural renderer link. This provides 16 channels. I'm clicking the output one here. This provides 16 channels of link to the Audiomovers render. So I hit OK. And there's the 16 channels in 8 stereo pairs. We don't need link 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. We don't need these, so I'm going to delete them. And 1 through 2, I actually want to make it 1 through 12 because this is going to be a 7.1.4 wide link. And so I'm going to actually turn it to 7.1.4. And these other two, 13, 14, and 15, 16, this one's going to end up being the Dolby binaural, and this will be the 2.0 going off to the Audiomovers. And so you can see the stereo ones have dedicated output routing, but we've lost the routing for the 7.1.4, so I'm going to click on it there. So now we've got these dedicated outputs. In Pro Tools, you got to make sure you have buses feeding your output, so I'm going to click the bus tab and double check that these exist. And there's an issue here. 1 through 12 is set to stereo, so I want to turn that to 7.1.4. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to delete paths? And I go, yeah, I can delete subcat paths. That's all right. So now we've got a 7.1.4 path and 2 stereo paths here, 13, 14, and 15, and 16. So that's it for the I/O. I'm going to exit the I/O. So now I'm going to create 3 aux returns that will serve as masters to feed the re-renders to the Audiomovers binaural render. So Command-Shift-N, create new tracks. We're going to create one 7.1.4. It's going to be an aux input. And this one I'm going to name Apple Bin, for short for binaural, because this is going to feed the Apple Spatial Audio Renderer. Create another aux input. This one is going to be stereo. And this one, it's not an audio track. It is an aux input. I almost missed that there. And this one is going to be the Dolby binaural, because there are 2 different binaural renderings being done out there in the streaming world. And we're going to create one more here. This is going to be another stereo, and this one is also an aux input, and this one is the 2.0 headphone mix, because in some situations that will be heard as well. Okay, with these 3 ready to go, hit create. Wait a moment. There we go. And we've got the Apple binaural, the Dolby binaural, and the 2.0. Let's send these to the correct place before we source them. The Apple binaural needs to be feed off to outputs, and we need that 1 through 12 binaural renderer link there, the 7.1.41. So that's where that's going to go. The Dolby binaural here, this one needs to feed the renderer link 13 and 14. And 2.0, this is going to feed binaural rendering link 15 and 16. Come on, there we go. Now we can set up their inputs. It's good to do the outputs first so you don't create any kind of feedback loop. Once your outputs are set, your input to the Dolby bin is going to be re-renders 7.1.4. The Dolby binaural is going to come from re-renders headphone binaural. And the 2.0 is coming from re-renders 2.0. So this is all set up correct now. So at this point, I'm going to set up the Audiomovers binaural renderer. So if you haven't done so already, students, I would go to your applications folder and find the application, binaural render for Apple Music, and I would drag it to your dock so you can use it in future mixes. It's bugging out there. I'm going to go to my dock and I'm going to boot it because I already had it in the dock, and that's what it looks like. And it gives you kind of 3 inputs here. The first one is spatial render. That's that incoming 7.1.4 mix that we've set up. And that is going to feed the Apple spatial audio render so you can hear what it sounds like on Apple Music. These other 2 inputs we're going to set up. So this one is the Dolby binaural input, as you might hear on Tidal or Amazon Music. And the 2.0 is going to come in here, as you might hear in various devices. So we can name these inputs, which is great. You go to Settings and pass-through input number 1. This is going to be the Dolby bin. Oh, that didn't take that, so we'll try that one more time here. Dolby bin. And this one, of course, is the 2.0. Selecting is not working here. 2.0, there we go. And here, render audio output is where you select the rendered feed, where your headphones are. And depending on what you're doing at home, you may have a different audio interface or a particular place you want to send these to. An easy place to send this to is the Mac external headphones, and plug in your headphones there. Here at Nescom, what we're going to do is we're going to click OK to save the settings and go off and set up the AirPods Max headphones. Every user, for each student with their own user, has to set this up. So you go up to the Apple menu, you open up System Settings, and search for Bluetooth, because it's hard to find things in these system settings. There's Bluetooth. And in the future, you'll see the AirPods Max here once you set them up. To set them up, check them out of the EDC if you haven't done so already, and press and hold the button on the right ear, above on the top of the right ear, and the AirPods Max will go into discovery mode, and you'll get a flashing light below on the bottom of them, and you can see now it's popped up here. I'm going to hit connect, and now your user is ready to go with them. You don't need to use Hey Siri here in Control-C. At home, if you're doing this, you may want to, but I'm going to hit cancel. And with those ready and working, I can go over to the binaural render and now go back into settings and set the render audio output to feed Nescom Audio AirPods Max. And so this is pretty cool because it's all ready to go. So let me go back to Pro Tools, and I'll bring up the render here in front. If I press, well, that won't work for long here. Let me just make this a little smaller here. If I press play, I'm going to put on my headphones just to confirm that everything worked. And I'm going to press play. And I have to, of course, bump the mic stand, mute the local speakers. That's important. So on the S6, I hit the cut button. And as I pan around, I am hearing it through the headphones in Apple Spatial Audio. And I hear the reverb, the binaural reverb that Apple adds that you cannot turn off. If I click to the Dolby binaural, I'm hearing it in the headphones, and I am hearing the reverb that Dolby adds. And of course, this reverb I can adjust with settings, which is kind of cool. And I just heard that. I just heard the reverb diminish dramatically there by setting it to near. And if I click to the 2.0, I'm going to hear the folded down 2.0 mix, which does not have Dolby binaural reverb. It's just a flat. So this worked completely, and this setup is the procedure to make it all work. I'm going to hit stop here. So there's a lot to be said here about why this setup has to be done, and this video does not have the time to discuss why Apple's using its own render and why Dolby has a different sounding render and all that. But at least this video shows you the complete process for setting up this binaural render by Audiomovers. I recommend this particular product. It's about $90 or something, but I think it's totally worth it for mixers who are serious about making sure their Atmos music mixes translate in a variety of headphone settings. All right, have a great day. Good luck with your mixing. Goodbye.